5 years ago, I lost 20 pounds of stubborn fat. Since then, I have had a baby and I can confidently say that postpartum weight loss is a whole different ballgame. To be clear, I am not a fan of bounce back culture. I think it puts unnecessary pressure on mothers at an already vulnerable time. But I'm not going to sit here and gaslight you and pretend that weight loss can't be a goal. If it's important to you, I'd rather you do it safely and effectively and in a way that's not going to turn you off from fitness completely. So today we're going to have an open and honest chat about the science of postpartum weight loss, touching on breastfeeding, hunger, sleep, giving you the information you need so you make the best decisions for your body. First things first, a bit of context. So 5 years ago, I did lose those 20 pounds of stubborn fat, and it was not easy, but I think what was more challenging for me was finding a routine that allowed me to maintain that weight loss, right? Without feeling like I was constantly focusing on my body. And I think this was so hard because a routine isn't any one thing. It's a series of habits that you have to develop individually and then string together as part of the bigger picture that is your life. Having a baby was another major shakeup for me. Those first few months, I felt like I had zero control over my routine or my body, which adds sleep deprivation to the mix. And, I was spiraling. I was worrying, if I don't recognize me, what do other people think of me? Do they think I'm less capable, less motivated, like I'm letting myself or my goals go? It wasn't just that my body was changing after having a baby, but the fact that everything that I thought made me, now felt out of reach. So as we go into today's video, I want you to reflect honestly if the way you're feeling, especially if you're feeling rather desperate to lose weight, if the way you're feeling is entirely about your body, or if maybe even like a small morsel of it might have to do with struggling with your identity since having a baby. Again, weight loss is a valid goal, but it's also a patient process, and I wouldn't want to lead you down this path thinking it's going to fix all of what you're feeling. In reality, getting back into fitness was just part of what helped me. So did therapy and dedicating time to my mental health. This is why I'm so happy to be partnering with BetterHelp for today's video. BetterHelp is a platform that's dedicated to making therapy more affordable and accessible. Finding a therapist is hard, especially once you've had a baby. You might struggle to get out of the house, make time for yourself, let alone talking to somebody else. So BetterHelp helps make this easier because it's 100% online, remote. You just complete a quick questionnaire and you can get paired with a professional therapist in as little as a few days. So it's easy to get started. I'll put a link in the description box down below. By clicking that link, you are supporting this channel, but you will also save 10% off your first month with BetterHelp. Once you get paired with a therapist, if you find it's not a good fit, you want to switch, there's no hard feelings, no additional fees. So even if you're pregnant, maybe you want to get ahead on some of these things, or maybe if you are struggling, there's no harm in reaching out. That link will be down below. I appreciate you clicking it, and I appreciate BetterHelp for helping to support this channel. In order to lose weight, you need to be at an energy deficit, aka burning more calories than you consume. The calorie is just a unit of energy, so let's not get hung up on it. This is the energy balance equation. This is a simplified visual for what your metabolism is doing. The reason I say not to get hung up on calories is because it's going to be really difficult to account for everything your body is doing when it's recovering from having a baby, you're potentially breastfeeding, and your routine is constantly changing. This visual can be helpful though because it gives us a starting point for understanding all the factors affecting your body and ultimately your weight loss journey. Starting on the energy outside, we've got BMR, or basal metabolic rate, which describes the calories you burn just sitting, breathing, and existing. We know that breastfeeding increases this by 15 to 25%, which if you're exclusively breastfeeding tends to account for around 400 to 500 calories per day. Another factor affecting BMR is sleep. A 2019 study investigated the changes that happen in your metabolism from late pregnancy through to 4 to 6 months postpartum. And one of the surveys they completed was a sleep survey looking at the quality and quantity of sleep that mothers were getting. What they found was that women deemed to be good sleepers had a relatively higher RMR than those deemed poor sleepers. But while the research is a bit all over for how sleep affects BMR, what we do know is that sleep is closely connected to various hormonal and metabolic processes in the body. We'll come back to this. Next, we have the thermic effect of food, which describes the energy required to break down and digest what you eat. This is often described as a percentage of your total calories consumed via food. So it's directly proportional to how much you eat, but it's also influenced by the types of foods you eat. Next, we have the thermic effect of activity, which describes the calories burned via any sort of structured physical activity. So these are the workouts you plan on doing. Now, this component of metabolism works the same whether or not you've had a baby, but Once you become a mother, there are obviously additional barriers to exercise, time, stress, and energy being the obvious things, but something I always like to mention is recovery. Postpartum recovery is not something to be taken lightly. It is so important to go gradually. If you're going to start a new workout routine, make sure you can stick with it consistently. I don't care if you do a workout that burns 1,000 calories. If you can only do it the one time, you get an injury and then you have to take off the next few weeks. And finally, we have NEAT, or non-exercise activity thermogenesis, which describes the calories burned via spontaneous, unintentional, or lifestyle physical activity. Now, this can be kind of hard to wrap your head around because it's all of the things that you do unintentionally. So activities like baby wearing, baby bouncing, walking around with your baby to settle them, grocery shopping, running errands. What's also tricky is because it's unintentional activity, it can also increase or decrease unintentionally without you even noticing. For example, with breastfeeding, the way your body gets the nutrients it needs for breast milk production is partially from your diet, but also by mobilizing fat stores or decreasing unintentional physical activity to spare energy. Moving over to the energy inside of the equation, this describes all the calories coming into your body via food and drink. Big factor affecting this is sleep. It has been well documented that poor sleep quality is associated with poor diet, increased calorie intake, excess body weight. As we discussed, sleep is closely related to various hormonal and metabolic processes in your body, including appetite regulation. The major hormones at play here are leptin and ghrelin. Leptin makes you full, ghrelin makes you hungry. A 2004 study examined the impact of sleep duration on leptin levels after 6 days of sleep restriction followed by 6 days of sleep extension. What they found was that sleep restriction lowered leptin levels by 19%. The same research group confirmed these findings in a follow-up study where subjects were sleep restricted for 2 nights followed by 2 nights of sleep compensation. Now, they took this study a step further by assessing appetite and hunger while keeping diet the same and just changing sleep. They found sleep restriction led to a 24% increase in hunger and 23% increase in appetite, with participants showing an increased appetite for high-calorie, high-carb foods like sweets and salty snacks. Add to that, if you're breastfeeding, we know that that takes your blood sugar on a roller coaster. It is incredibly unpredictable, especially when your baby is little, which can contribute to craving those higher carb, higher sugar foods because your body is just trying to find balance in this crazy new reality. So how do we lose the weight? I mean, the traditional advice of move more, eat less quite literally goes against everything your body is experiencing. So I would start by trying to work with my body, starting with nutrition. We know that a moderate calorie deficit should not affect milk supply, but should you track calories? Not necessarily, especially if you think it might add stress to your routine. Instead, I like to focus on setting up your environment, adapting your surroundings to reduce the likelihood of overeating and support more mindful eating. A great starting place is meal prep. Whether you do this yourself, you have your partner, a family member help out, or you pay someone else. Now we know we won't be sleeping regularly, so those hunger hormones will be wonky. What we can do is eat in a way to support these. From a dietary standpoint, there's not much we can do for leptin, but ghrelin is directly related to the food in your stomach. When your stomach is empty, ghrelin is released, which signals your brain to eat. So first and foremost, we want to be eating regularly. Now is not the time to do intermittent fasting. On the flip side, we don't want to be snacking constantly. So breakfast, lunch, and dinner, eating every 3 to 4 hours is a great starting point. It will also give you a small sense of routine, which might be comforting. Now, beyond just eating regularly, it would also be great if we could increase ghrelin for as long as possible so that we're not constantly hungry, we're not having to feel like we're fighting our body. So how do we keep that full tummy feeling? Eat foods that digest slower and stay in your stomach for longer. Foods that are high in protein and high in fiber are great for this. If you remember when we were talking about the energy outside of the equation, the thermic effect of food, an added benefit is that high protein and high fiber foods also take more energy to break down and digest. So to summarize, a great starting point would be 3 meals per day, every 3 to 4 hours. Of course, if you get hungry in between, have something to eat. We don't want ghrelin to go crazy. You don't have to meal prep everything, but meal prep can be a great tool to address those areas or those times of day when you struggle with mindful eating. Moving over to the energy outside of the equation, now is not the time to just do it. My big thing is consistency. So before you start any sort of activity after having a baby, it's important to establish, are you okay to start that activity, right? Either see a pelvic PT or look up a list of symptoms of pelvic dysfunction online and make sure that you're not experiencing any of these things before you begin activity. Postpartum is a new chapter, which may seem scary, but I also think it can be exciting because once you have a baby, it's an opportunity to lay the foundation for new habits and a whole new routine, a whole new way of living, right? You get to be who you want to be. It's a great fork in the road to kind of like launch in a new direction, right? One of the first activities that I did postpartum was baby wearing. Once I got a little further in my recovery, I started walking, and I love walking because I am a huge fan of daily movement and lifestyle activity. Of course, weightlifting, running, structured workouts are all great and have so many benefits for your body, but you can't do them every day while allowing for enough recovery. The reason I love walking is because it's low intensity, it's low impact, it's gentle enough that you can do it daily. And once you get into a routine with walking, you don't really even have to think about doing it. It just becomes a calorie burning freebie. Now, the final frontier, structured training. Which workout should you be doing? I put this last intentionally, and I say this as a fitness trainer, someone who makes a living via structured training. Consistency is key. If you try to do everything at once, you will run out of energy. I'd rather you focus on creating habits around nourishing your body and moving regularly before you come to me. Once you get to a good place with those other things, I mean, by all means, if you're looking for a realistic routine, we have plenty in the app. There's a 7-day free trial. We've got a whole section as well as multiple challenges now that are pregnancy and postpartum friendly. The approach we follow focuses on 3 full body workouts per week, which has served me through so many stages of my fitness journey because of the flexibility. If you miss a day, if you need to reschedule, I love it because you still got 4 other days in the week. So that is it for today's video. I know it was a long one. I know it was an in-depth one. My throat is raspy, is sore from talking for this long, but I hope you feel better equipped with the information you need to make the best decision for your body, even if that means not focusing on weight loss at this stage or any stage of your journey. Becoming a mom is such a cool thing, and something I've reminded myself of throughout this journey is that fitness will always be there, but this time with your baby, these things that you are experiencing for the first time, like there's only one first time, right? So do what feels best for you. Listen to how you're feeling, listen to how your body's feeling. Know that that is valid, and have fun on your journey.